Pleasure tonight to bring to the podium an individual that has achieved successes in many foreign countries, including Germany, Spain, England, Denmark, you name them. In the United States, he has proven himself worthy of success, and as a result is written up in the Dictionary of International Biography and is also listed in Who's Who. At the age of 31, well, there goes our prophet. Yeah. At the age of 31, our speaker accepted the challenge of bringing a heavily losing international sales company back on a solid financial ground, and in less than 3 months increased the sales of this company by 900%, something we as callers can respect. He is the author of a fast-selling book named Appointment with Success, plus 2 other books named Success is Luck and Ask Any Failure. He addresses up to 100 companies and associations yearly on programs like Winning Through Motivated Management, Attitudes in Action, Your Appointment with Success, and Innovate or Stagnate. Some of his satisfied clients, of which are too numerous really to mention here, but some have been McDonnell Douglas, American Automobile Association, General Dynamics, General Electric Broadcasting Company, Century 21 Real Estate, Safeway Stores, Bendix Corporation, and many others. Without over-introducing this speaker, we have brought to you, it is my pleasure and privilege to present to you an enjoyable Dane, but an American by choice, whose topic tonight is leadership and motivation. Let's give a nice hand for Bjorn Secher. Bjorn?
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I do appreciate an introduction like that. As a matter of fact, when I get an introduction like that, I can hardly wait to hear what I'm going to say myself. No, it's a pleasure to be part of a group, a real professional group. But I can, before I go much further, I can see when I open up my mouth, you're giving me that extra little look, aren't you? You're giving me that extra little recognition. I know it was one of the most delightful introductions I've had in a long time, and yet again, how many of us really listened to that introduction? Because how many of us in there are not giving me that extra little look? Where in the world is it that fellow is from? You detected a slight accent, haven't you? And I appreciate that extra little look. I appreciate that extra little recognition. It took me some 19, 20 years to perfect that accent, so thank you very much. Yeah, why do I bring it up? I bring it up because you and I, we are going to be together approximately 15, 20 minutes here right now. And, of course, a little later on we will retire into the other room. But I have found again and again that people keep on looking at me, staring at me for the first 15, 20 minutes, which means that you won't have heard a word of what I've been saying because you're trying to figure out, now, where was it he was from? Let's get it behind us one more time, quickly. That little, of course, underline little, right? That little accent, that's a Danish accent, okay? And as you know, we like to emphasize Danish as we will not run the risk of being called a Swede. And that may be one of the most important things we're picking up here this evening. Let me give you 1 or 2 small things about the Swedes. I'm not going to tell you all my Swedish jokes right now, but it is a fact, and when I tell you 1 or 2 of them, then that accent will fade away. And it is a fact. Do you know that throughout the ages, the Danes and the Norwegians have been sending their mentally incompetent people off to Sweden? Did you know that? Sort of to raise the intellectual level of both countries, huh? Would you believe that? Incidentally, it's as good as time as any. How many Swedes do we have in here? I don't believe it. Out of 900 some odd, and there's not one that won't. How many in here that will not admit it? Oh, there's one courageous one in there, yeah. Well, let me put it this way. We are kidding each other for many centuries back and forth, and I hope we shall be kidding each for many more hundred years to come. Have you noticed when you get into your area of responsibilities, whenever you arrive, if people are not joking and kidding with you, something is wrong? Have you noticed that? So I hope we shall be kidding for many more 100 years to come. As a matter of fact, I have a good friend of mine. Just for that one Swede down there on the 19th table. You know, his name is Sven. Good friend of mine. There's exceptions to the rules, you know. Good friend of mine. He's in real estate. He sells $3 million worth of residential real estate every single year. And I say when a Swede can do it, anyone can do it, right? Right. But here he came bouncing up to me not all that long ago with a big grin on his face. And he said, Bjorn, he said, do you realize there's not too many Great Danes left? And then the grin became from ear to ear, and he pointed out, and have you noticed most of them are dogs. So you see what I mean when I'm standing up here and giving it to them. You like that one better, didn't you? Yeah. Let me get going a little. Let me just tell you how I became an American, and then we will share a few thoughts. That accent has faded away a little, hasn't it? I am among friends. You may think I have an accent today. You just see, when I came to this country, I didn't open up the doors for you ladies and said, after you, ma'am. No, sir, I opened up that door and said, you pass out first. Now, you fellows in here, you try to pull that one and see how welcome you are. Let me just tell you how I became an American, and then we'll share. It happened, as a matter of fact, some 25 years ago. My sister and myself, we came on the 4 o'clock boat. We arrived up in New York Harbor. And then we got down the gangplank with all the rest of the immigrants. And as we got closer to the custom immigration officer, we heard his voice, and he said, and what do you want here? And I said to myself, lo and behold, I spent 2 years in the old country on the waiting list trying to get into the promised land, and I can blow it right now. I sent off a prayer. It must have been listening to, because when my time came, and there suddenly I'm standing looking at 240-pound of tough custom immigration officer. He doesn't even look up. He just saying, what do you want here? And it blurted out wherever it came from, but I just blurted out, sir, all I want is an honest job and hard work. And baffled him. He looked in his book, and then suddenly he looks up. For the first time, I dare say, that day. Not only that, but he gets up. He had a grin on his face. I don't think he has had one for 2 weeks. He slaps my back and shakes my hand, and he said, welcome, welcome. That's a category that is wide open. And I marched in and became an American. Yes, sir, that's how it happened some 25 years ago. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. But with all that, we have about 15 minutes left to share a couple of good thoughts. Laying the foundation for what we are going to talk about later. We are going to talk about the most vital ingredients for success. What is it that makes a winner? What is it that makes a winner? What is that most vital ingredient for being a winner? Anybody? Right now, in lieu of time, okay, let's take it. It's that one little word called attitude. Ooh, how simple can it get? As a matter of fact, a man like Clement Stone, who made billions on this one concept, and he came up and he said, there's very little difference in people. The difference is in their attitude. And the big difference is whether it is positive or negative. What is that little thing called attitude? I'm quite sure many of us in here, we will agree that it has been in charge of our past. It directs our, should we say, creates our present, and it does direct our future. Or are there one or two in here that may come up and say, well, Bjorn, is it really all that important? Isn't it highly overrated? And if anybody ever come up to you and ask such a question, throw another one right back at them and ask them, is the morale of importance within the group, within the environment where you work? Is morale of any importance? And we will all nod and say, yes, you better believe it, it's very important. But heck, isn't it no more and no less than the sum total of the attitudes of the individuals? And if that morale is not right, then we better be darn good at solving problems. Right back to that one little thing called attitude. But somehow, whenever there's a philosophy, ideas, new approaches, they shall never happen. There shall never be put action into them before we have knowledge. But even more so, knowledge is not enough. We all have a lot of knowledge, but we've got to go down a little deeper and have understanding of that knowledge. The moment we have that understanding, that's the moment we switch around and move in a slightly different direction. So what is that little thing called attitude? Hey, it's intangible, isn't it? You better believe it is, but yet again, you have a way of showing. That little thing called attitude. To me, it is the thought behind the things that we do. To me, attitude becomes my altitude, one way or another. To me, that thing called attitude, isn't it, when we really think of it, the stuff that life is made out of? Hey, so doesn't it deserve that extra little recognition? How many in here will combine or show, should we say, that attitude and attention are very synonymous, or practically synonymous? How many in here associated attention and attitude? Let's take a quick little look at that word called attention. Attention is the swiftest, the fastest thing there is. That attention, yours and my attention, is in charge of our destiny. That's how potent it is. Attention is, we can be in a flash of a second, we can be on the other side of the moon. The point is this. Wherever you and I, we put our attention, that's what we give strength to. S-T-R-E-N-G-T-H. Take the T-H out of this language and I speak it perfectly. But that's what we put, whatever we put strength to, that's what we give attention to. And whatever we give attention to, that's where we will reside. That becomes our level of existence. That becomes our reality. Question, where are you and I focusing our attention? Are we always focusing upon what can be done, or do we from time to time switch around and look upon what cannot be done? If I look upon the problem, where's my attention? And the solution doesn't stand a chance. If I switch around and suddenly focus my attention upon the solution, 75% of that problem has disappeared, has been eliminated. And how quickly can we do that? Any takers? How quickly will you say we can switch from looking upon the solution from looking upon the problem? How quickly do you think it can happen? From can to can. I'll give it to you. In 1/1,000,000th of a second, because that's the approximate speed of thought. That's how quickly one can switch from failure to success. All it takes is awareness. And we'll go to that when we get into the other room. That little word awareness. Just remind us about that word awareness. Take two people. Two people, they're standing looking out of a window. One is looking down and seeing nothing but mud and misery. The other one is looking up and seeing nothing but the stars and beauty. Two people, same situation, but two complete different lives. And couldn't that maybe be why some people are succeeding and some people are failing, merely because some people, or should we say different people, react differently to the same situation? Can we buy it? That little thing called attention. As a matter of fact, let me give you a story about a chap I have run into it from time to time in my life. His name is George, and no George in here, and then see how his attention is. You know, he's the kind of guy that brightens up a room by leaving it. You heard about him, haven't you? He goes them one better. He walks into an empty room and blends right in. George is the type of guy, he plans to have a rotten day, huh? He gets up in the morning and he tells his wife, you know it's going to be a tough day today. And wouldn't you know, for some 14 years he has never been wrong? He gets home in the evening and then he says to his wife, you know it was a tough day today, the worst day since yesterday. You can hardly wait to get him home, can you? That wet blanket wraps himself around. You can hardly wait. Let me give you a complete picture of him. George, he moved to a new town. The very first thing that happened to him, he was run over by the welcome wagon. Can you get the picture? George, he buy himself a 2-pants suit. First thing he does, burn a hole in the jacket. George. He's so far down out and praying for mercy, and you know what he has been getting throughout his life? Justice. It happens every time, doesn't it? But he had heard about dial-up prayer, and he said, I'm going to call up dial-up prayer. And they hung up on him. George. Oh, don't you already love the guy? No wonder his wife not too long ago came up and said to him, George, she said, I do not know where I would be if it wasn't because of you. But it certainly is fun thinking about it. You know, you meet him in the morning and you say, nice day today. And you know his answer. What's so good about it? You say, have a nice day. And you know darn well he has different plans. Yeah, that's George for you. One way that really, now that's really to me is typifying this kind of a guy. He drives towards a green light and he slows down because he knows darn well he's going to turn red. You know, isn't that right on? You got the picture now of George? That marvelous individual who has only been looking forward to retirement. All his life he has wasted. Now, here's the guy that when you ask him in the morning, how are you? 5 minutes later, you wish you hadn't. He's kind of leaning. This individual, get now, that self-same individual, suddenly he accepts a new philosophy. Suddenly he has a new understanding. Suddenly he buys just one little line and he starts living his entire life by it. It could be a line like as simple as can't means won't try. But don't forget when we talk about simplicity, simplicity and profoundness will always go together. And wherever there is greatness, there's also simplicity and humbleness, okay? So here all he grabbed hold of was one little line, as I said, can means won't try. Or maybe it's my favorite line, nothing is impossible for a willing mind. Can you see every single time various situations and circumstances comes his way? Before where he said can't, suddenly a little voice in here and say, hey, who said it couldn't be done? Who's going to make that decision? And suddenly he start acting and doing differently. He's sending out differently. Can you see what happened to that self-same guy? He hasn't changed his job. He hasn't changed his environment, his town, anything. Everything is the same. And yet again, he's different, isn't he? You see, he's giving out from a different drawer, so to speak. And whatever he is giving out, people have the same reaction in them. That's very, very simple. In a flash of a second, we can switch from the one alley to the other alley. Let me give you a way where we shall never ever forget that one little word called attention. And that goes back to a Swedish friend of mine. His name is Ole. Ole, like the honest Dutchman, he was honest. But he was tight to boot. Now, Ole lived in Gothenburg. And we all do know, not any Gothenburg, Nebraska. Let's just get that quickly settled. But Gothenburg, Sweden, as you know, that is as Swedish as they come. That's where the birds and the bees, they go and take notes from the people, and you know that is kind of Swedish, isn't it? You better believe it is. Now, Ole, get this picture. He had never been any more than a couple of 100 miles away from his little homestead, and maybe only 2 or 3 times at that. One day, though, he got that brilliant, fabulous, bright idea that he was going to make a trip to our great United States of America. And since he was a man of his words, as he said, so he did. He bought himself a ticket. Now get this picture. And suddenly, he sits in a 747, 7 miles up, going 700 miles per hour across the Atlantic Ocean towards Kennedy Airport. You do not think there was excitement? You better believe there was excitement. He could hardly stand it. When that plane landed, was taxiing up, made a stop, sent the ramp out to get all the people off. Who do you think was up front? You're right. Our friend Ole. He had to go. And incidentally, the closer he got to where he had to go, the more he had to go. So we all know where he had to go, okay? And he had heard that everything over here cost money. So he had his dime ready. He was not about to make any mistakes about this. And wouldn't you though know, when Ole arrived at his final destination, stingy Ole had his pleasant surprise because suddenly he realized that that dime was not needed at all. And then it happened. Catastrophe. The dime fell into, you know what, an American dime. Stingy Ole, what to do? You're talking about excitement. Tears in his eyes. All the emotions were taking over. Hey, but dumb he wasn't. Credit is due where credit is due. And he knew wherever there was a problem, there was a solution to be found right within that problem. All he had to do was to dig for that solution. And he was digging. He was digging harder than he had ever been digging before. You get the picture? And lo and behold, wouldn't you know, now he was in the land of the free, where there's a reward for an effort. And a picture started crystallizing within his mind. It became clear and clear. It became crystal clear. He had the solution. And a grin appeared on his face. And he gets into his pocket. He hunts around a little. And then he comes up with a whole quarter. He gives that quarter one long look. Then he drops that quarter into where the dime was. And then he says, for 10 cents, no. But for 35 cents, you bet. You know, you're... For 35 cents, you bet. And ladies and gentlemen, that's attitude. Nothing is impossible for a willing mind. Nothing is impossible when we swing our minds around. Nothing is impossible when we let go from here and attach over there. Let her go what from here? Let go of that attention of ours from here and switch it over and attach it over there in 1/1,000,000,000 of a second. So what have we just very briefly touched upon? And I mean very, very briefly. We have merely touched upon that success allows for no frustrations, haven't we? Don't take yourself too seriously. That's a good little line. We can spend 3 hours on that line alone. But I like right now in here just to bring up a friend of mine. I went over some time ago before I was coming out and being with you here this evening. I went over to his place, and what a fabulous individual. Jack Lasery. What an incredible guy. If you have never had an opportunity to listen to him, go and listen to him. But I want to give you a little story, which is so typifying what this whole thing is all about and what life is all about. And that was the time when Jack, he was a young, I got it from his wife, Georgia, so he must be right. At the time when he was a young colonel out in the Pacific. Everything went fine and wonderful for about a month and a half, I understand, until that one particular morning, about 3:30 in the morning. I wish it had been 4:40. I said 4 much better than I said 3. But never. It was 3:30 in the morning. And there his lieutenant suddenly come crashing through the underbrush. Colonel, it's terrible, it's terrible. The enemy is surrounded. We are completely surrounded. Well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Absolutely petrified, out of his mind. And here Jack just looked back at his lieutenant, and I love it. 3:30 in the morning, not only was one eye open, but both of them were wide open. Not only that, but he was sitting up, and he grabbed that lieutenant by his shoulders, looking him straight back into the eyes, and then he said, but Lieutenant, what a fabulous opportunity, perfect situation. Now we can attack in any direction. Hey, isn't that typical, Jack? You're right on. Oh, I love it. Which merely tells me that one thing. Remember, when we lose the winning spirit, we have lost everything. When we lose that fighting spirit, we have lost everything. So there's 3 kinds of people, and we'll finish off with it, and we'll go on afterwards behind the curtain over there. All of us. But there are 3 kinds of people. There's the one that make things happen, then there's the one that wait for things to happen, and then there's the one that says, what happened? With a little bit of awareness, we'll find out who are we. And could it possibly be one more time again because of lack of control of that attention? Stinking thinking is nothing but lack of control of that attention of ours. So with that, I was going to come on with another one, but then I realized it will take another 5-10 minutes, and I've been given 20, and I'm already 22. So with all that, let us just say that whatever is going to happen in that tomorrow, this whole little life of ours is an individualized proposition. It has not so much to do about intelligence. It has to do about how you and I, we look upon what is taking place, how we allow environment to influence us, and the picture that we have of us, the image that we have of us, because that image will reflect and we behave accordingly to that image. And it is all part of that one tiny little intangible thing called attitude. But that attitude is what creates all tangibles. So with that, let us just say that the move is yours and the choice is yours. And let's meet each other in a little while. And you are absolutely the one of the most delightful groups I've been in front of. That beautiful group, like a bouquet of flowers with a couple of thorns in between here and there. I enjoy it. Thank you. Let's meet a little while. Thank you.
Now we really know why he's Denmark's gift to America. We thank you very much. It's hard to follow you. We have some announcements for you. Tomorrow morning's breakfast is included in your package, and you must have your badge. 7:30. You planning to do something later on tonight, I guess. All sessions tomorrow and Tuesday are your choice sessions. We hope you'll please choose and attend one and not be a no-show. The exhibitors area will also be open during all the sessions. And I feel once again we should have our small world recipients, the people who have come the great distance that they have to be with us for these 3 days. Once again, would all of you please stand? All of our small world recipients, where are you, please? And once again, let's show them how much we appreciate coming this distance. Thank you. For your information, this is all being taped. You'll be able to have a tape session of this, which you can purchase. Also, Bjorn is going to tell you about some of the tapes that he has, and also some of his books. Once again, a nice hand for our speaker, Bjorn Secher. Bjorn?
Thanks, Bob. You're terrific. Thank you. You know, I'll tell you one thing. It is right now 9 o'clock in the evening. It can only be a vibrating, dynamic group of people after a long, hard day that is coming in here and then sit and are ready and willing to take more. And I bow to you. And as a matter of fact, let me tell you, the one that is not in here are really the one that ought to be in here. You know? Oh, yeah. The leaders always want that little extra, don't they? So, let us continue with what we talked about earlier. Let me just in here say, I talked about simplicity. Let us recognize success is very simple. It is us that allows it up here. That's where somehow, you remember when Moses walked down the mountain? He did not come with 10 guidelines. He came with 10 direct, specific rules. Right? And the same thing for success. There are certain small things that we just have to abide by and not allow the intellect to louse it up and try to make it difficult, because it is not difficult. Success, again, is simple, and I like to think about a man like Vince Lombardi, that all-time great winner. You remember when he started out his boys about a month before, pre-training? And then he got in front of those pros, $100,000 to $200,000 pros. He got in front of them. He had a football in his hand. And then he said, "Gentlemen, this is a football." Of course, a linebacker over there, he came back at him and said, hold it, coach, you're going a little too fast, you know. But that's simplicity. And he won game. I think he had about 12 or 14 specific plays that he used over and over and over again, and it made him a winner. So, what we are after in here this evening is, who am I? Where am I going to go? How am I going to get there? And the most vital, important, who's going to get me there? Well, again, what we talked about a little earlier, we talked about that one little thing called attitude. Hey, let me tell you one thing. If success was because of looks, you in here, you would all be millionaires, and easy at that, right? So it is that little, one more time, that little intangible thing that creates all tangibles. Question right now. What are you and I? Are we predominantly positive or are we predominantly negative? Do we have a predominant tendency, I should rephrase it, to be positive or to be negative? Some of you are saying, well, you just told a little while I ain't here, ain't I? I'm positive, ain't I? Question, are we? Now, don't forget, humbleness and profoundness will always go, humbleness and greatness will always go together. Profoundness, too. The biggest room in the world is that room for self-improvement. None of us can look upon ourselves as a finished product. We can't afford that luxury. So let me, one more time, ask. Do we have the predominant tendency to be positive or to be negative? Let's ask ourselves, do we? Now, let's ask for ourselves. Do not let our wives tell about husband. When we make it, yeah. But let's just ask that question. Are we? What would you say? Yeah. Predominantly positive? I try to look upon myself as a positive. But let me ask a question. Do you ever gripe? Do you ever complain? No way. Do you ever feel frustrated? Do you ever have doubts, worries, a couple of self-imposed limitations? Are you always happy? If we are not happy, we are negative. Ooh, potent stuff. We never heard that one before, haven't we? Anybody want to explain why? How many in here is ahead of me? When you're happy, you're looking forward. And as a matter of fact, you used one little word there. When you're happy, you're looking forward. And when you're looking forward, you have anticipation. And when you have anticipation, you are vibrating with life. It's the anticipation that does it. You're right. And maybe we're touching upon goal as we go. But are we always in charge of circumstances? How often have we not allowed circumstances and situations to be in charge of us, whereby we become slaves of our environment instead of us being in charge of it? And what is it that it takes? Remember, we used one word before? We used one little word called awareness. Now we know. Now if a certain thought has been thrown at us, and as that thought has been thrown at us, then isn't it merely for you and I, as we go through our life, merely to be aware, whenever I am not feeling happy, whenever somebody seemingly taking charge of me, that means that I am negative. And the mind, it will always be either positive or negative. There cannot be either one or the other. It's potent stuff, isn't it? That attention of ours will always go in one direction or another direction. Whatever it stops upon, that's where we will reside. Let's take a quick look. Let's just be serious for a little while. Let's take a look at that mind of ours, okay? So we can just have a little more. Now, this one is oversimplified. Incidentally, we have two cans at home. One of them you're already aware of. I can't get rid of this accent, okay? And the other one is I can't draw. So will you please use your imagination when I go? There's a lot of things we don't know about that mind of ours, but we do know how to take advantage of it, and that's all we really care about right now. Here goes, that mind of yours, and here it is. Look at how I hit it there. Good company, good company. Conscious and a subconscious mind. As I said it was oversimplified, didn't I? And universal intelligence. Now there's two other things we don't talk about. Or one other thing we don't talk about. That's religion. As a Baptist, I get many Baptists out here, and I'm a Protestant, and I have learned that we should stay away from all this. But that doesn't alter the fact that I have to mention briefly. Universal intelligence and conscious mind, the connecting link seems to be the subconscious mind. Let me just say that very briefly. If you take the master in charge of the control, energy powerhouse, and suddenly he shuts off that energy, then this is nothing. So we got to count with it. It is there. The creator of all creation, of whatever we want to call it, it is there. As a matter of fact, if you know me for Christmas, you may have gotten my Christmas cards which said something like this: to all my Christian friends, Merry Christmas; to all my atheists, to all my Jewish friends, Happy Hanukkah; and to all my atheist friends, good luck. You know, so just as we know where we stand, right? Now, I said I was not going to talk about religion, but let me tell you one quick little thing. I got to tell you, as we go along. You know, I've been in Atlanta. That's really Baptist country. How many Baptists do we have here? Don't tell you. There you go. I knew. And up in that Atlanta part of the world, that is Baptist country. As a matter of fact, it seems like whenever I travel, wherever I go here in the South, I got to go through Atlanta. And it seems to me them Baptists in that part of the world, whether they go to heaven or hell, they got to go through Atlanta. You know, you got to have, you know. And over there I learned, you know, just about a year ago, something like that, it came to me, and somebody came up and said to me, Bjorn, he said, you know, now all you Catholics in here, you can now eat meat on Fridays. And it won't be too long before you Jews in here, you will be able to eat ham and pork, I understand. And right after that I learned, them Baptists up there, they will be able to drink in front of each other. See, there's there's progress all around, isn't there? Isn't that the truth? This is the kind of things we learn when we travel in this fabulous, great country of ours. That comes to mind, and that's a sidestep. But it comes to mind when I went up to the Niagara Falls not all that long ago, and up there I learned that that's a honeymooner's second biggest disappointment. You know, just you know. Let's get back to our. Let's get back over here. Conscious, subconscious, universal intelligence. The things we know the most about is that conscious mind of ours. That's the one we gather facts with. That's the one we reason with. That's the one that gives us a free choice. That's the one we can take the high road or the low road with, okay? All that we are kind of aware of. What we may not be aware of is, and hang in here now, is that that's the guardian of the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind, a lot of things we can talk about that one, but we're not going in for it in here this evening. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make a big jump, and I can only make a big jump when I'm in front of a superior group of intelligence. Right on. Oh, I knew you would agree on that one. Subconscious mind is the power behind the conscious mind. Incidentally, in here, that's where the memory, the seat of memory, that's where habits are taking place, and all these goods, and telepathy, and so forth, etc., etc. Okay. It makes a lot of sense, incidentally, doesn't it? It didn't make sense. That goes that Baptist. You never can't shut them down, can you? It didn't really make that much sense to me in the beginning, so I came up with a little analogy. You, the driver, conscious mind. Subconscious mind, the engine. You just bought yourself a new automobile. You can take that beautiful piece of machinery, you can run it 90 miles out the road. Who's going to ask questions? The engine, subconscious mind? No way. It's going to do exactly what you tell it to do. It's in control. You may get caught out there, but it's your prerogative to do whatever you want to do. Or you can sit there and idle all those beautiful horses right smack down into the ground. Or you can put it in reverse. Who's going to ask questions? For that matter, you can take that engine, that beautiful car of yours, and ram it right smack into the gutter. Who asks questions? It has drawbacks, doesn't it? That engine, that subconscious mind. It's the power behind the conscious, but it doesn't think, it doesn't reason, it does not know the difference between $1 million or a penny. It will act upon whatever you and we tell it to do. It is kind of neutral. It couldn't care less if it's good or bad for you. It is like electricity, you may say, which can be utilized either for heat or for cold, all depending upon the directions, okay? So, is that all that important? What have you and I allowed to get in here in the last 6 days, the last 10 days, the last 6 months, the last 10 years? Because whatever gets in here, whatever we allow to get in here will be picked up and acted upon, and that's what we are giving out. Because right in here, that's where the habits are being formed, okay? So, let me ask this one quick question. How do we, or is motivation, let me rephrase it again. Who motivates the motivator? And is motivation important and constant? Needed to be constant? What do you say? Who motivates the motivator? Who is the motivator in here? Darn right. Have you noticed when you come out and you take charge of a group? If you don't take charge, they take charge of you, don't they? And if you don't take charge of them, you have bought something you really did not want, didn't you? And you walk away with that emptiness, nothingness feeling, and you come home to the little lady, and they pat you on the back. She says, "Not all that bad. You'll be better next time. Don't you worry." What have we allowed to happen there? What is it that we have allowed to happen when these things take place? Because there's not a one of us in here that's not darn good. We know. But what is it that's allowed? Remember when we said earlier, it's not the intellect that counts. You know the biggest suicide rate of them all? The highest suicide rate of all? Of one particular class? Psychiatrists. Did you know that? 12 times higher than the general public. Because they're not smart. They're darn smart. They've got more smarts than most people. But what is it? They have listened to so much junk. You know? And they are not stopping it right here. It gets right in there. And there they are, jumping off bridges. Do you know that that man's greatest influence is what? What would you say? Is his environment. And I'm not talking about ecology right now. I'm talking about the people around me. Hey, what are we? Predominantly positive or negative, remember? There's a lot of negativity floating around. And continuously, you see, environment is bombarding us. Hey, bang, here you go. Continuously we are bombarded from all different sources. Can you see what happened? And if you and we are not on guard here, it sneaks right in here and load up that mind of ours. And that's what you and we get up with in the morning, and we go to bed with in the evening, and then we are down there with George and hope for the best, and as my uncle said, hope in one hand and spit in the other and see which one we get the most in. Right. Well, he's a good old father. Can you see what we are saying? Let me give you a quick little story. We are not going too deep, but let me just give you a little story back in the old country. I am in the Royal Danish Guard, okay? Have you ever been around the English, the Buckingham Palace? You see those big, huge, what do you call it, bear cats they have? Yeah. I was doing the same thing at the Marienborg in Denmark. We were in camp, boot camp, for 6 months, out in utterly nowhere. I used to say when the birds were crossing that camp, they had to bring their own lunch. It was that far out of nowhere, okay? In the winter time in Denmark, when you hold your hand out here around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you wonder if you got a hand. It's that dark, okay? 2 o'clock in the morning. For you ladies in here, it's called the dog watch. 2 o'clock in the morning. They come, and then as they get up, you're going to go out and on guard duty. And we had out on the back gate, there was utterly nothing except for one wooden shed. And then nothing, but vast nothing. And we had just been exchanged guards, and there you stand alone. I'm quite sure many of you fellows, you can follow right along with me. And there we are standing, and you hear the steps in the night. They disappear, and suddenly you are completely alone. 2 o'clock in the morning, standing with your gun. You shouldn't be allowed to carry a gun at 2 o'clock in the morning. You can hurt yourself. And there you stand. And what did we do? Hey, what did some of you do? Remember what we did? We put that bayonet on that gun, and then we went over to that wooden shed, and then we jammed that bayonet up good and tight in that wooden ceiling, and then we grabbed hold on that gun, and there we stood. Okay, there you go. So how do we do it? First of all, I can take off my coat, can I? God, it's hot in here, isn't it? Thank you kindly. Whew. I didn't hear that. Good. So how do we do it? Very quickly. All we have to do is, again, take advantage of this mind of ours. If we continuously focusing our attention on all the things that happen out there, then automatically that's what will be in our mind, and we are being pulled down. So we have to counteract. And it's just like going to a perfume shop. You don't buy anything. But then you walk out, you have a fragrance, only from that perfume shop. You walk in again. You still don't buy anything. You have a little more of a fragrance. You go back and forth, little by little you become saturated. And isn't that exactly what it amounts to? And I say this sincerely. This whole program here is not now. It doesn't start now. It starts the day when we get back on the job. When we get back home to the everyday, so daily days, okay? That's when it happens. That's when we start. And that's when we need to have something that can throw us right back on the track. It is simply this. To at all times, in world of leadership, we must at all times expose ourselves to the kind of stuff that is conducive for success. Then that stuff will automatically attach us to or with success. There you have it in a nutshell. It is that simple. Haven't we heard that before? Kind of, in so many words. You know, it's just like going to church. You know, I go down to church, and the very first time I go down there, and if I arrived the very first time, I didn't have to go back again. Isn't that the truth? It's really that simple. But we have to do it again and again. As a matter of fact, I cannot help but thinking about the little minister that took over a nice little church in a nice little town. And the first day he gave a nice little sermon to his nice little congregation. The next Sunday he gave the same sermon. The following Sunday he gave the same one. The third Sunday the same one. And the fourth and the fifth Sunday he didn't change a word, not a sentence. And enough was enough. Can you imagine the congregation? And the elders, I should say, they took group together, walked up the middle aisle. Then they cornered our reverend, and then they said then the oldest one, he took word, and he said, Reverend, diplomatically in the beginning, he said, that sermon of yours, it's a very good one. And then he couldn't contain himself any longer, and he blurted out, but wouldn't you mind giving us another one next Sunday? And the reverend didn't budge an eye. He just merely looked them straight back into their eyes, and he said, well, why should I? You haven't acted upon the first one yet, you know, isn't it? Can we buy that? Isn't that the truth? But you haven't acted upon the first one yet. And that's why again and again, I'll tell you a quick little story. I'm not selling my book right now, but I wrote this little book here. Oh, since I'm talking about it, I'll hold it up. Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, sure. I didn't mean to start on that right now. I'll give a little pitch later on. But this little book here, Your Appointment with Success. You know, so many people, they came and told me how good it was and how they enjoyed it and what they have gotten out of it and so forth, etc., etc. This went on for about a year and a half. And then I say, heck, if that book is all that good, maybe I ought to read it. So that's true story. So I picked up my own book. Now, I have a habit of mutilating a book. I underline here and scratch there and so forth so my eye can quickly focus in on the thing that is good. And I sat there and I said, hey, this is good. This is terrific. Wow, good. I gotta remember. I gotta remember. So I can give it, and so forth. And I was underlining and mutilating my own book. And suddenly it hit me. Hey, lo and behold, I'm the guy who wrote this book. And I have forgotten about 2/3 of what was in that book. And then I said, what does not happen to all the people out in the world that does not really have the same job that I have? Continuously, I'm exposed to all this stuff. And it is so easy to be pulled down. There is not a day where we should not expose ourselves to some of the stuff that is conducive. I say it very strongly, very sincerely. I say this: spend $20 minimum every month on the most important person alive. And who's the most important person alive in here? You're darn right I am. Yeah. Of course, we can all argue that all around, couldn't we? Let me ask you this one question. There's one thing that is of vital importance. We touched upon it early when we said, how do we motivate ourselves to stay motivated? Let me ask this question in here. Where do you and I want to be 1 year from now, 6 months from now, 5 years from now? What is our objectives? Or let me ask this question. What would I have to do within my arena to win a gold medal? What would I have to do to be the number one caller? Have we thought of these questions? Because if I automatically become the number one, automatically I am going to make a bundle. That's simple. Now, let us just take 1 second right now here, get a little involved ourselves, and ask us, and turn around and demand from the person that's behind you or in front of you. Cannot be your friend. Just turn right around and say hello. Hey, I am such and such. And then demand, what one thing can you think of that would make your business a better business? I'm just asking for one. If we had more time, we will get so many things happening in here. But just do it right now and turn around and say, hi, I'm Jack. Hello there, you're Jane. Fine, wonderful. Now, give me one thing that would make your business a better business than it is today. Just try it. Just try it. Just turn around and do it. Just get out of here. Just do it. Just turn around and find the most handsome guy you can get hold of. Just go ahead. Just try it. We want one thing. Demand an answer. You're just flirting. That's all you're doing. Maybe there's something to it. One never knows, Did we get an idea? It's only 9 o'clock. Man, you're moving fast, huh? All right, now I'd like you to turn around one more time. And then ask, what are you willing to give to obtain that objective? That's now hitting below belt, isn't it? Yeah, okay, just try. Go ahead. And hey, now you stay out of that one. You stay out of that one. Just go ahead with it. All right. Can you buy the questions? It takes a little more time than we have right now. That little thing called a goal, objective, If we haven't got it, we have nothing. Because then I am just getting up in the morning, and I hope by golly somebody calls, and I will have a couple of jobs before the week is over, or whatever. The phone has to call, and then, they want you over and such, and it's over there and such. That's not it. We can. I have friends of mine in this business. And one of them, he said, well, I give, Bjorn, I give about 100 speeches a year. But I'm going to up it to about 150 to 200 next year. Now, here was a guy that knew what he wanted. And he was ready to go for it. You see, he had an objective. And then it becomes fun. If we do not have objectives, if we do not have goals, this is one of the biggest reasons for people living way below their potentials. It's the 98%, as a matter of fact, of people live way below their potential because of lack of an objective. I do not say we are going to enjoy when we arrive at where we want to be. But I do say this, that unless we are aiming towards something, we shall never arrive at anything. You know, the story come to me of you fellows in here. Remember when you were a bachelor? You arrived at a party, and you walk in, you're slightly late, and you stand there with your hand in your pocket, and then you're looking out in the crowd, and you say, we wonder what kind of evening it's going to be this evening, huh? And as you stand there and wondering, the blonde over there on the side, she suddenly, her eyes are wandering, she meets yours, and she smiles. You look around, me. Sure enough, you're on. You smile back, you move closer together, you meet around the punch bowl. About an hour and a half later, it's going to be one of those evenings. Huh? And at that particular moment, what happened? The brunette walked in. And she came through the kitchen door. And she was standing there. Don't miss another one bit, you fellows. She was standing there with her hands in her pocket. And she was sort of looking around and wondering what kind of an evening it's going to be tonight. And at that moment, your attention faltered. You were drifting. And you happened to catch her eyes. And she smiled at you. You looked around one more time. Me? You're darn right. She had the audacity. You were on one more time. And now you had a problem, didn't you? You had to make a decision, didn't you? And you made a decision, didn't you? You decided to concentrate on both of them. Now what happened? What happened? Nothing happened. There was no specific goal, no specific objective. Without that specific objective, that specific goal, then we do not need to cooperate, we do not need to organize. And there's nothing really to be happy about. What is it that we want here in life? Is it luxury and comfort? Yeah. Is it really that what we want? Or is it something to get excited about? Isn't it something to get excited about? And when we have something to wrap ourselves around, our lives around, something to be excited about, then automatically it's felt in the pocketbook. It cannot help but. It's anything that happened to us here in life is a byproduct of what we allow to go on up here. I mentioned a little earlier ago, incidentally, anyone in here that, what kind of methods are you using to maintain yourself on a high? I take that back. What kind of methods are you using to maintain enthusiasm? That's these powerful, positive reflex skills. What do we use in here? Say it again. Same stuff. What do you use? What kind of program have we put ourselves upon? You know this, I cannot help but... Let me give you one line. One line I got from Jack Nicklaus. He not directly, but indirectly. If I was going to hire somebody tomorrow, would I really hire myself? And if not, why not? Ooh. Heavy stuff, isn't it? When he was out at the Inverang, out here, not too far from here. But was it 3 years ago? And the first Sunday he shot a 76, the next one he shot a 74. He was out of the game, right? When you have a par course of, what was it, about 68 or something, and then you come out and you shoot 76 and 74, in that kind of company, you are out. What did Jack do? He asked himself the question, if I was going to select somebody to be on my team tomorrow, would I really select myself? And he didn't like the answer. Did he get into the bar and just try to drown his sorrows? He knew darn well that they were excellent swimmers. He didn't even try it. Did he go home to his wife and be patted on the back? No way. He's a pro. And he called another pro in. And he said, I need help. And they went out in the putting course. And he found, at that time, let us face it, he was on the height of his career. He was, without a doubt, the best in the world. And yet again, he found that he had lost his touch. He had grabbed hold of the wrong habit. He needed help. So they went out in the putting court and they found he was off just a smidgen in that stance of his, okay? What happened to him? He had gained what? Even that great as he was. And he had gained confidence, hasn't he? Can you see it? And what happened the next day? Hey, he knew how to handle them, nearly said buggers now. He knew how to handle that crowd now. That's more or less what we think in our own mind. He knew how to go out there and do it. And sure enough, he went out. A new man. Same man, but with a new head. And he went out there and he shot himself a 64. And the next day he shot himself a nice 65. And he beat the whole gang by one lousy little hole, one little putt, one little ball, but to the tune of $54,000 in the pocket. Now, he had an advantage because he had a scorecard that was telling him instantly that something is wrong. You and I, we are in the game of life. We are in the people business. We are dealing in people all along, right? It doesn't happen that quickly. What we give out now has an after effect a little later, but it catches up with us, doesn't it? So can you see it is so much more vital important? Prevention at all cost. We are not, hey, a good line. We do not teach navigation in the middle of a storm, right? I mean, it's nice to be prepared. We are ready when it happens, and we are confident we can handle it. Let me give you a little story about preparation. Because to me, I think that, okay, what is it that we want? We want results. That's why we are here today. So that's why we can talk the language that we are talking right now. We want results. But all else, I should say, is preparation. Result is one thing, but it is that preparation that counts. I happened to be, I was up in Canada. And then my next presentation was down in Austin, Texas. I don't know why I go down to them Texans quite often. You know, they don't understand a word I say, and I don't understand a word they are saying, but maybe that's why I'm down there quite often. But anyway, I came down to Austin, Texas, and I cannot remember the place. It was a delightful hour to an insurance convention. Now, they really put it on. There was 3 different bands with accompanying foods for each band, you know, Mexicans and so forth, Chinese and Japanese and whatever they had. They had it all. And the booze was flowing. And I came with my big suitcase across the swimming pool area where everybody was. And I just want to get over to my cabana and just get rid of my tie and start looking like everybody else. And suddenly there he stood. I don't know why a Texan, there's John in here, I don't know why a Texan is always 6'4", but that guy, he looked at Texan. He had the whole outfit on with the Stetson, the boots, the works, you know, and pockets like I have here, you know. And then suddenly he came John Wayne style, right up, and then he stood. Not the usual delightful Texan hospitality. He merely said, "And what makes you an expert?" And there I am standing looking straight into this guy's navel, you know, trying to come up with an answer. You know? And I didn't have any. Later on, I should have said, well, listen to this accent, you know, some 6,000 miles away, so I ought to be an expert, right? Thanks goodness for that little thing called attention. Because a couple of girls came over and called him, whatever. He's like, come on, and so forth. He lost interest in me, and I slinged the way down to my cabana. Now I have the habit, whenever there's something is bugging me, I use the 3x5 approach. 3x5 cards. The 2x4 approach. Good approach sometimes. But I use the 3x5 cards. Let's just get it straight. And I merely put on there what makes an expert. And I stuck it on the mirror. Now, I also have a habit every morning. Now, if we had more time, we can talk about this. But every single morning, what I call my recharging of batteries hour. I take every single morning, a minimum a half hour, where I just sit. You may call it contemplating, meditation, whatever you want to call it. It's good stuff. It makes $37,000 for me once. It's very good stuff. When you, just like, what the whole thing amounts to is, we give the whole, let me just take a few seconds, we give the whole system a rest. Instead of forcing and demanding answers, we allow things to register on the screen. But that screen has to be cleaned and cleared before something can register by itself. Have you noticed where last night you forgot that name? You remember the name you forgot? And suddenly this morning, you get, standing shaving, or suddenly thinking, well, what do you girls do? Okay, you girls were standing shaving, okay? And then what happened? What happened? Suddenly there, that name came to you. Oh, it was such and such. You were not even thinking about it. Or you may have been out playing tennis or golf or painting the house or whatever. It flashed through your mind, didn't it? It was sort of cleared that mind. It is like the pond. When it is muddled up, not before it becomes stills and the mud settles, that's a time when you can get a clean and clear image. Can we buy it? Or like the cream. When the cream is still, when the milk stops, it's become quiet, then the cream rises. That's the same thing. It's potent. It's very, very potent. And myself, I always get that extra little lift. You feel refreshed from it. Nevertheless, here I'm sitting. And suddenly it flashes into me. All these things happen in a flash of a second. And it hit me. Now, what makes an expert? And it came back at me with powerful force, and it says preparation. At the same token, at the same moment, it came out that that's not really what I wanted to ask. And that should not really be the question. It should be, what makes me stay an expert? Good lesson. And it came hitting me loudly and clearly. Not just knowledge, but understanding of it. And it says continuous preparation. How simple can it get? That's all there was to it. Continuous, never-ending preparation. Try. Think it for yourself. All the time. What happens when we get a new idea? What happens when we get a new thought? What happens? Don't we feel like it goes through the entire system? It becomes it recharges us. A new thought is what? Or a new idea is what? It's a threat to yesterday's results. New thoughts, new ideas may be more important in this group than anything else. New mental acceptance of already existing knowledge. More of that knowledge or an understanding of already existing knowledge. And it can only come through that continuous exposure to something that is greater than you and I. Only through a new thought, a new greater thought, shall we elevate ourselves. That's the ball game. That's the only thing that can make us up here. And we may as well pick for 10 minutes a day, 15. As a matter of fact, let me give you a quick little one here. I have got time flies. We can do this for a long time. Let me give you a quick little one. Any procrastinators in here? Yeah. Just what about a little sign? Here goes that 3x5 card again. Don't procrastinate. Do it now. I mean, how simple can it get? Right here. Hey, yeah, I know. Oh, yeah. Hang in there. Do. We are kicking the mind. We are reminding that mind of ours. Bingo. I like this one here. Don't take yourself too seriously. That one is potent. And I can give you a little story on it. And I know you can really appreciate, because we are all more or less in the same business. We are up there, we get those egos, and when things are not going quite the way we want them to go, then we become bruised a little, huh? I remember when I started out in this business, I said if ever I allowed myself to take myself too darn seriously, where I could not stop and pick the daisies and have a little fun in my, environment and so forth, then that's the time to quit, because I've seen too many of it happen. And wouldn't you know, one day I was down, doesn't matter what store I went to, but I went in there, I was going to buy a birthday gift for my sister. I went over to the perfume counter and so forth, and they ignored me. They ignored me. And you know how I reacted? I would never have believed that it would have been me. But things have a way of sneaking in, because I had not been aware of it. I had not taken charge. I got out of that store in a huff and a puff, and I drove about 3.5 miles down to Saks Fifth Avenue. I bought the dumb perfume down there, paid 1.5 times more than I would have paid at the other place, right? And not only that, but when whoever I met for the next hour and a half, I griped to. I talked to them about this lousy service you were getting up there and so forth, and they certainly need some of those seminars. Yes, sir. And suddenly it hit me. Lo and behold, what have you done to yourself? What have you allowed to happen? You have allowed somebody else to be in charge of you. You have allowed them to influencing you. And I put down this little thing here. Now, some people are a little slower than others. It took me 3 months. I carried this with me for 3 months. Right here. You will be amazed how it takes the sting out of things. When you come along, it can be an engagement that's blown up. It can be somebody else gets to the one that you were supposed to get, or whatever now. Or it can be somebody can come up and shrug their shoulders at, whatever. Don't take yourself too seriously. Again and again, and when the wife at home and the husband at home, whatever, when we start coming at each other, don't take yourself too seriously. It's like putting on big boots when we walk through the thorny bushes. We don't get scratched up. I promise you it's good. Let me give you how good it is. I talked about that Atlanta airport. I came down from Birmingham, Alabama. My incoming flight, it was late. And, in Atlanta, God, I don't have to jog any place. I jog 1.5 miles every time I hit Atlanta. And I mean I jog it. And here I came, I was late. I did 2 miles in less than 5 minutes. And I come crashing up out to gate 71. And I was coming all the way out from gate 2. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, you run 1.5 miles there. And I arrived up there, and there were 30 people standing around that counter and yelling and screaming and slamming that counter. They had overbooked some 30-odd seats. They bumped me. Here I fly, 150,000 miles plus a year. I'm probably paying the salary, and you have the, and suddenly it hit me. Ooh, Bjorn, don't take yourself too seriously, but it was tough. It was on a Friday night, and when you come, you're tired. When you've been on the road all week long, and you come in on the last trip home, it's the 8:31 flight. And here I was coming, and then suddenly there you're bumped. All you can think of is a shower, and silky, sweet, soft pillows sink into them.
And then you have to sit on a bench for another couple of hours before you even get in the flight. And I was about to join the crowd. Yeah, hey, heave them one. Don't take yourself too seriously. And I went over to the guy and said, somebody sure blew something around here. I mean, and here you're standing. I mean, you got a tough spot right now. Don't think to that extent. Suddenly they found somebody that had sympathy for them. Now, who do you think went over to the lounge with those guys afterwards? This little guy. How do you think I liked myself when it happened? Suddenly they gave back to me. You see, I gave out to them. And that told me something so very, do to others as you want others to do unto you. Yeah, but I learned one little thing. Hey, you got to do it first. You know? Oh, yeah? Whatever you and I give back, people have the same reaction in them, and that's what makes us leaders. Leadership is not a title. It's an everyday, continuous state of mind, isn't it? I'm not through with my story. When I travel in smaller areas, less than 1,500 miles, I go coach. Who do you think was flying first class home? Oh, yeah. Story's not true yet. 3 weeks later, this time I had more time. I'd walk leisurely up. And just when I had walked, I was practically up by the gate. They had called for boarding passes. And I ended up about 76 or 78 in line. And there I am standing. And way up down here, suddenly one of the guys that had been at that session about 3 weeks earlier saw me. And he said, hi, And I say hi, You can't hear a word of what you're saying, but you say it in hi, And they say hi. And evidently he must have talked to some of the guys down at the counter, because suddenly he come walking up to me. And he said, you're going home? I said, yeah, I'm going home. He said, where do you want to sit? Huh? Yeah. And I said, I like to sit where I'm usually sitting. Bulkhead aisle. A good little tip, bulkhead aisle. There you sit. And then because there you can stick your feet into first class, You can stretch right there. So he said, okay. And he went back, got me the seat, and said, okay, thank you very much. Merely because I could have made enemies, but I made friends. Because I was aware, that word awareness, all the time, aware. I was aware suddenly of what I was about to do. And it would not do me any one bit of good to have done what I was about to do. In other words, you ask yourself, if you had a second chance, is that the way you would have acted and reacted? At all times, when I say awareness, by simply being aware, and that's where that little card comes in, awareness, don't take yourself too serious. It's that sweet. And isn't it simple? But I guarantee you this little method is one of the easiest methods, but it's also one of the most potent methods for creating greatness. That's simple. And it has nothing to do where I have been or where, how many years I have been and so forth. Yesterday's gone. All right, none of us can do anything about yesterday. But where we stand right now and where we are going to in the tomorrow, that's our job. And that we can do an awful lot about. Merely by straightening one or two small thoughts out. Right up here. When I said awareness. How many in here play tennis? Few. You're not so sure, huh? All right, out on the court. We can all follow this. Here we go out and we stand there and then we hit the ball. And the ball makes a nice little rainbow shape and then it falls out on the other side of the baseline. Oh, then it's 15-0. Then the ball comes at us again and we hit that same thing down in this kind of precision here, right? And bingo, one more time, 30-love. And it won't be too long before we lost the whole game, right? Set point. And then we say something like this. Well, it was only a game. I was just out there to having fun for the exercise of it. It really doesn't mean all that much. Hey, question. How come then that we keep score? How come then? The point is this. The point is simply this. When that ball comes, and I have an awareness of how I can beat that opponent, if I keep on, I couldn't care less. I'm not going to keep on hitting that ball here. Hey, I'm going to be a loser for the rest of my life. But if I suddenly recognize with every breath that I'm breathing, that if all I have to do is step up a little and meet that ball right out here, then suddenly that opponent, he has a problem because my ball was zipping right across that net, and now he's in trouble. And how long will it take? How long will it take for me to make that a habit, an automatic reflex skill? How long will it take for me? Hey, I got a quick little game for you. Everybody needs to have a quick little stand up. Try to, all the fellows in here, just stand up once. Everybody with a jacket. Now take off your jacket. How do you like that? Now take a good look, ladies. Now, we all used to put on our coat, stick our right hand in, or left hand, whatever we are. If you're right-handed, now try to put your coat on again by putting your left hand in. And vice versa, okay? Oh, I love you up front here. You're good. See here, I still one struggling over there, yeah. No, he gave up. He didn't even put it on back on. Was that jacket gonna see? Yeah, okay. All right. See what I'm getting at? How long do you think it will take for you, without thinking about it, when you put your coat on, sticking your left hand in? Of course, it depends upon how many times you take it on and off your coat, right? Sure. But let's just say, every single time, how long do you think it will take? Huh? Well, as I said, some people got it and some. Would you say in about 10 days' time we could exchange one habit for another? But doesn't it mean that in the beginning we have to be in charge and in control? That's all we are saying. That's all we are saying. In the beginning, it will be maybe a disagreeable habit, but a disagreeable habit that has been done for about 10, 12 days becomes an agreeable habit. It's merely a matter of have a little of this guts and discipline and do it. As a matter of fact, I may as well do it right now. I happen to have. What's this? That's what I call my 12 rules for success. It's on both, and this is the pocket reminder cards you're looking at right here. They're potent. It's simple, and it's the program for 12 weeks. It's very simple little program. Of course, I put a little cassette in there too, because I know you cannot run around and read all the time. But whenever we are driving, and you are doing a lot of that. As a matter of fact, do you know how many years you spend in your cars? Between 3 and 5 years. Hey, do you know how many years you spend in your bathroom? And what do you used to read in there? Throw Sears catalog away and get some good stuff going. What I'm trying, incidentally, this one here. If anybody wants those cards, they're $4. If anybody wants the whole thing, they're $15. But today, oh no, not the beautiful people I guess in here. They're only at $10. I have 3 more cards, cassettes, and they are. This is studio recording, incidentally. This is 60 minutes. And then there's another one which is called Portrait of a Winner. I was going to call that one. You can't have a decent month out of 31 lousy days. But I changed my mind and called it Portrait of a Winner. And then there's one little one called Attitude in Action. That's a live presentation with a group of ladies, and there's a lot of fun going on there. And that's about 45 minutes. Incidentally, the book in here too. Let me just get it over and done with. No more selling. The book here is a $5 book. I can't give it to you today. I can give you some of the tapes. I have some of the tapes with me, but the book is the 5th edition, is about to get off the press now, so I'll have to mail that one to you. But we'll do that afterwards when we get down, and I have a card in here. The whole package, it comes today for $30. Ignore anything else it says in here. It will be a $30 package for the whole thing. So, there, with all these little things. Now, see what I did? See what I did right here now? See how we are conditioned? I looked at my watch. And what does the rest of us do? Oh, look at the rest. That's one thing we must never do when we're out there calling. Because suddenly everybody is looking. Gotta get home, you know. Oh, yeah. Incidentally, this is a side step. But you know, when I today was driving out here, and I was going to make presentations here this evening, suddenly I realized that we can learn an awful lot in life from square dancing. To me, it is, suddenly I realized that we, in square dancing, what is it that we have to do? We depend upon each other. We are moving together. We have it being stepped together. We cannot decide upon, there has to be a harmony, cooperation, teamwork. If I cannot quite handle it, I merely have to start catching up and be in step, right? Isn't that what it amounts to? And can we take a lesson for life right there? Suddenly I realized I'm going to come up with certain things that I'm going to whereby I can compare square dancing to life in itself. Unity, cooperation. This is teamwork. This is all what it amounts to. And there's one that's calling the shots. Yeah, and I'm looking at him. And doesn't that call for a lot of responsibility? Let me ask this question here, Secher. Now, we all know and we all have a good feel, but the real good ones are the ones that have that extra little improvising touch with a touch. And how do we get it? By being vitally interested in what we're doing. By being vitally interested in people. If we love people, I guarantee one thing. They do not stand a chance. They love you right back. And when that is happening, my in-look becomes my outlook, and it touches that pocketbook one more time. I hate to be so materialistic about it, but this is the byproduct. If we have fun doing what we are doing, believe you me, the word spreads. Because when people come, many times people come with very little. They expect you to pick them up. That's what we are there for. And that's why it is yours and my job at all times to be able and ready and capable of doing it. But we must know the rules, because otherwise this environment will sneak in on us. Have you noticed sometimes when you're not quite with it, you allow your defenses to go down, and you're not quite as good as you want to be? Merely because we allowed thinking to take over. We focused our attention on the wrong spot. We took ourselves too seriously. Oh, yes, sir. There are so many things we have not talked about yet. Let me just say, go back and just put one thing here. And it is called, I don't know why they gave me this one here. They didn't give me anything to write on. They'll just be ready now and say it is thoughts, actions, and results. And it is spelled TAR. That is the 3 steps we have been talking about. T-A-R. Thoughts, actions, and results. First we perceive, then we behave, and then we become. Write down one little line and take it along and put it on the bathroom mirror, and each and every one can see it. As you think, so you produce. That's simple. The whole thing in a nutshell. So what have we really in here now agreed upon? Yes, we have agreed upon that man's greatest asset is his mind, haven't we? Of course, woman's greatest asset is still man's imagination, but that's, of course, is a whole different story. You know?
And I have, then I get that look, this day and age of women's lip and what have you. Let me just say, quick, you have nothing against it. I think it's marvelous, fabulous. From here on down, we're limited, as we've talked about. From here on up, we are unlimited. As a matter of fact, would you believe that you girls, you're using more of your brain than us fellows? Did you know that? Yes, you've known it all along, haven't you? There you go. Oh, yeah. But let me also just say this, that it does not alter the fact, in spite of how great and fabulous you all are, it does not alter the fact that first God, he made this earth, didn't he? And then he rested. And then he made man, didn't he? And then he rested. And then God made woman. And ever since then, neither God nor man has rested. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And another one I just like to slide in here is, how come in this day and age of equality, how come that a diamond remains you girl's best friend and a dog remains our fellow's best friend? Oh, yeah. Not right. I said we were going to talk about communication, so let's just sort of gently slide into communication, because that is one thing that you are doing. Your whole job, your whole career is communication.
People do more of the things that we want them to do and so forth. But right here, with what we're going to talk about right now in communication, we will find that if we just do that, so many of the other things will follow automatically. I think that communication is one of the biggest problems in the world today. Even though a chappie came up to me not all that long ago and he said, Bjorn, he said, yeah, I think that communication is a big problem today, but I think that apathy is an even bigger problem. But then again, who the heck cares? And then he kept on going, So maybe he had something. Okay. Now, I had the habit, whenever possible, then I asked the question, do me a favor, give me your definition of communication. And I had at that time been given a seminar, about a 5.5, 6 hour seminar at a university. And afterwards, 4 of us sat together. And right there was sitting a PhD, 26 years in the academical field. And I said, terrific. Ask. Here was a guy, for 26 years, he had the job of sending the new crops out into the world, not only to fend for themselves materialistically, but also to grow up as full human beings. And I said, good, ask. And I said, Doctor, do me a favor. Give me your definition of communication. And I give him credit. He pronounced my name all right. He paused. And then he said, Bjorn, he said, I think that information and communication are very much alike. And I wouldn't believe it, and I hope you do not believe it either. As a matter of fact, I could not help but thinking down deep within myself, heck, one more degree to you, buddy, and you're going to be completely incompetent. Yes, sir, that's more or less what I thought. I could not help but thinking there must be a tremendously intellectual ego involved. Information and communication being the same. Information means what? That means giving something out. Communication means what? Getting, yeah. God, he's way ahead on me a minute. He's right on. Communication, in our words, means getting something through. And darn right, there's a difference. There's a tremendous difference. As it was just mentioned here, what is communication? Let's just go in for it a little deeper. Communication is a picture. Or before we say that is you is, or you are, the messenger. Now you have to have a message. And then there's a receiver. And isn't it your job as the leader to make that receiver receptive to what you have to communicate, to that message of yours? How many salesmen do we have in here? Yeah, now we all say, yeah, really, yeah, terrific. Hey, let me tell you this. I got to pause up for a second. We were out in Colorado at a hospital, and there I throw that question at them, and I said, there was a group, I don't know, about 100 and some odd nurses, healthcare people, and all kind of categories, and I said, now, how many salespeople do we have in here? And here was a nurse sitting right here. She must have been 30 years in the healthcare field. I see the picture very clearly. She was well endowed. She sort of folded her arms like this, then she pushed up, and her arms disappeared. Yeah. And then she said, this is a hospital. Like this was really going to shut me up. Maybe it should have been nice enough to let go. But I had a point to win. I had a point to prove. So instead I threw right back at her and I looked her straight in the eyes and I said, excuse me, but do you remember the time you were down in Lover's Lane? And there was a hush in the group. But from the colors in her cheeks, she remembered. Oh yeah, she remembered. Do you remember the time when you were down in Lover's Lane the first time? I hope you do. We all remember, don't we? Who was selling whom what? Yeah. Somebody was selling somebody something. As a matter of fact, wherever two or more people are together, somebody sells somebody something. Maybe better. Wherever two or more people are together, somebody communicates something to somebody. Remember we mentioned earlier? And if we allow them to communicate to us, that means that we are pulled down in their level where we buy what they have to sell and we do not really want it and we walk away with that emptiness, nothingness feeling, right? What is it our job at all times? And I mean at all times in the world of leadership. We are not allowed to show if we are not feeling up to. A pro is to do what has to be done in spite of that I do not like to do it. A pro is always at his or her best regardless of what? Regardless of whether I feel like it or do not feel like it. A pro recognizes that TWA, that winning attitude, stands for what? Or is what? It is not to listen to the negative dictates of the mind. Can we buy it? It is our job at all times to lift them up on our radiating, vibrating level up here where we are inspiring yeses. So you are right. Communication is a picture in my mind. Got to get across a void into somebody else's mind. And when we have that picture 100% across, we have communication. We have a meeting of the mind, and how sweet it is. We don't have to sell anymore. We don't have to convince anymore. It's done. Incidentally, selling means what? It means persuasion, doesn't it? So how many persuaders do we have in here? Persuaders. That's what selling is all about. Okay. But when we are standing here, getting from our mind across to somebody else's mind, there's a void here. That's where we are trying to get that picture across that void into that mind. And that's where we have problems. Because what is it that we are doing? We are fighting for what? We are fighting for their attention. Their attention. And if we do not get their attention, and there's a million things that can take them away, but if we do not get their undivided attention, then they don't quite listen. And when they do not quite listen, then they do not quite hear. And when they do not quite hear, it has to be done all over again because they don't understand what we are saying. $1.5 million study. I don't know why it took $1.5 million. Darn good salesmanship, but also umpteen thousand experiments. Get this. To get that picture across, words are needed. Would you believe 9% only contributed to the spoken word? Doesn't matter what kind of PhD we have, how well we speak the English language, etc. Incidentally, thanks goodness for that. I would never be standing up here, right on. 9% only the spoken word. And here I give you, now you on. 38% stands for what? 38% stands for, give it to me. What the eye seeing kind of picture? Not quite. What else? Hey, attitude, yeah. Okay, go. How that? All right, attitude, but a little more. Express how? Body language, not quite. No. Emotion, yeah. How do we express the emotion? How? Say it again. Enthusiasm, emotion, yeah. And enthusiasm is a positive emotion, right? Yeah. Stimulation, yeah. How do we stimulate? Animation, you're not quite yet. Huh? Right mental attitude, yeah. Good state of mind. I'm with you. How do we express it? Visually, not quite. Action, yeah, okay, but it's still visually. Give me another one. We are searching. We are getting close. Who said it? Give that man a... Not now. Later. Hey, that is good. That is good. Have you been in my audience before? No? How many in here have been in my audience? Terrific. How many have missed? All right. How many have never been in my audience? Terrific. Now I got one more question for you. How many in here couldn't care less? Okay, let's go on. I don't know where these things come from, but 38. Yeah. The word is 38% stands for, and write it down if you can. 38% stands for the tone of voice in which we speak the words. And I'll sell that one to you. Buy it, please. I put value. Isn't that something that you can deal with? You can really accept? I put value to the words depending upon how I speak them. That's many times where we make the difference in the job that we deliver. There aren't any new words. There aren't any new stories. There's only the life that we give to those words. There's only the life that we give to those stories. How many in here have not heard about Anita Bryan? Ha, ha, ha. We all heard about Anita, haven't we? And whatever you may be thinking about Anita, that's your own prerogative. Incidentally, do you know down here in Miami, we have a whole new definition for the word guts? Guts means to walk into a gay bar and then order a glass of orange juice. That's guts. That's guts. But whatever we may be thinking about Anita, when that lady is singing the national anthem, whoo, doesn't it run you up and down the spine and you feel great being an American? What is it that she has? She has something, she has that little thing called feelings, doesn't she? She comes across, she readies us, and she touches and she moves you. And then as a contrast, have you ever heard about the guy, the 14 years from, well, whatever now, up in New York? 14 years of utterly superb technical training. Ooh, is he good. And yet again, he's about to sing the national anthem. And what does he do? He fills his pompous chest. And out comes the national anthem. And you wonder if he's an American at all. Something was missing. What was missing? That one little thing called feelings. Hey, question you and I, when we are doing in our everyday activities, how often hasn't it not happened where we have delayed certain ideas and thoughts and challenges, or maybe there's certain orders we have wanted to have been taken care of, and so forth. And what happened 2 days later? Have they been carried out? Nothing really happened. Could it possibly be? And I'm also talking to you when you're out now calling. Could it possibly be that sometimes we are only there mentally and physically? We just go through the motions. We were there mentally and physically, but we were not there emotionally. Do you realize that 10% of the times we are reason and rationalizations? 90% of the times we are feelings and emotions. We say we are in the people business. Big deal. Yes, we are. But more so, we are in the feeling business. We are continuously dealing in feelings. And don't forget, wherever you and I, we arrive. And whenever people come to jobs and whatever, nobody steps out of character when they step into a job. There's needs and wants and hurts and feelings and desires and anxieties and fears and doubts and ambitions, you name it. And all that is what we are dealing with. We are continuously dealing in feelings. As a matter of fact, words, you and I, we can stop. Feeling have a way of marching right through. The intellect will stand there and knock against feelings. We are defenseless. That little thing called feelings. I could tell you stories when I started out in this country. How I beat $1,200 salesmen. I couldn't even speak the language. I remember when I took over 6 weeks after. I was supposed to be in a 6-month training program. After 6 weeks, I had my own territory. I remember I had learned upside down, all these various material and instructions and how to demonstrate and what have you. All the brochures, etc. And I went out. I'm not going to be long on this. But I remember I walked out down one side of the street, canvas, cold turkey. Canvas. I got a darn good record. Out of every 3, I got 1 demonstration. Out of every 3 demonstration, I sold 2. Not bad, huh? They told me that everybody needed one of those machines, and I believed them. It was heavy-duty equipment. That's not true. It was office equipment manufacturing. So in any case, the point is this. I went out there, and when they asked me a question, I was not so sure I understood what they were saying. But I looked up page 17 in my mind, the one I have learned by heart, and I gave them, because I thought page 17 fitted pretty good. So I gave them page 17 and the whole one of them. Whether it fitted or not, believe you me, I got some foggy looks in the beginning when I came to this country. Yeah. 2/3 of what I said, I didn't know what I was saying. 2/3 of what I said, they didn't understand what I was saying. But the point is this. I outsold not just 47 on the toughest and I dare say the best salesman I've ever come across in downtown L.A. I outsold the whole blooming company, 1,200 of them. And I didn't know how to sell. And there was a lot of the machines I didn't know yet. It was mostly one little electric machine and one little hand crank, I was peddling them all over. And I learned one thing, and I can put it to word today. Merely this, that even the greatest intellect is starved for feelings. I learned that I was not selling those adding machines and calculators. No, I was selling me. And I knew when I made a friend, then I would have a chance to sell. But I had to make them like themselves a little better just because they knew me. Even if I could only last 10 minutes, I had to last that 10 minutes when I was there. And here one more time, my in-look becomes my outlook, and it touches my pocketbook. That was really when I coined that corny little phrase. But can we get the point? Can we see it? Oh, you better believe it is potent. Let me give you, I got to tell you about Mark Twain, because I think he hits it right on. Mark Twain, everyone loved him. On 38%. Everyone loved him. His wife, Libby, loved him. But she couldn't stand those 4-letter words of his. So she was, he had really picked up some saucy ones. She decided that she was going to learn a whole string of 4-letter words and then show him how ugly they sounded. So she picked a whole bunch of them and put them nicely together, and one evening, and just waiting for the opportune time. And one evening there he was about to go out and make a presentation to a group, something similar like yours, tell someone one of his tales. Definitely not as nice, but similar, okay? And then there was a crease on his shirt. And he said, Libby, I can't go out in front of a group of people that crease on my shirt. No way. In those days, you did not just plug in and 2 minutes later. No stress whatsoever. Oh, just plug in and 2 minutes later, here you are, darling. Nice, thank you, kindly, and then go on. No, in those days, you've heard the story. You can picture in your mind. She may even, chop the wood, if there wasn't any, stick it in the oven, heat up the iron, put wax on the iron, scrape the wax, heat it up again, scrape the wax off, put the iron on again, and then do the job. About a 35-minute job. It took her 20. Maybe she didn't have to chop that wood. And she said, now, get the picture. And she walks in with the shirt, hands it over to Mark, and then she said, here is your, and then that whole string of 4-letter word, shirt. And he merely picks up the shirt, stick one arm in, the other arm in, start buttoning up, and then he looks at her, and then he said, Libby, he said, you got the words, but you ain't got the music. Yeah. It's that music that's coming across every time. That music that does it. There aren't any new words. There aren't any new stories. There's only the life that we give to those words. There's only the life that we give to those stories. Maybe even better. The words will remain forever old. But the life that we give to them will remain forever new. 53% stands for. We have 5 more minutes to go. 53% stands for. And you already said it. Who said it? We said it. Action, body language, this and that. What the eye is seeing. Do you realize that when you are, wherever you arrive, when you are out on a job, when you are out on a, all right, when you're working with an association, a club or whatever, the way you arrive into that meeting, when you are setting and arranging things, you're doing a lot of that, aren't you? Whenever you arrive, you drop the productivity or efficiency by 40%, or you lift it by 40% because you're the leader. That's how potent it is. When without even having spoken a word, the way we carry ourselves, the way they see us, the way we stand, the way they see you and I, the way they see you, they react accordingly. Potent. 53%. I'll prove it to you. I will prove it very quickly. Take an actor and actress. When they get a new part, a new role, what is the most important thing? Just to learn the damn script? Heck, we all know the script. Isn't it the heart and soul to feel that character, to be that character? And the moment we see them on the screen, what do you and I do? We do something we are very, very good at. We judge, don't we? We decide right then and there, before even a word has been spoken, whether they belong to the good guys or the bad guys. And have you noticed how long it takes for us to change our mind, even after we have been proven wrong? So let me just sum it up with this. And let's remember, it is darn seldom we get a second chance for a first impression. So what do we have? To narrow this down, we have 38%, and we have 53% stands for what? Action, right? And we have 38 and 53% is what? First we'll start with 91% what? 91% feeling, say, attitude. You're right on. I know, all we need a little coaching. There you go, you see? 91% attitude. And I say hooray for our side. Incidentally, when I say hooray for our side, do you know where hooray for our side originated? You mean you don't know that one? Hooray for our side originated at the time Lady Godiva was riding side saddle through town. Oh, yeah. Male chauvinist. Oh, yeah. So with all these fabulous things, time has a way of flying. Time always flies when you're in good company, doesn't it? What have we just accepted here today? We have simply accepted that yours and my thoughts are tools. They are tools that we shape our tomorrow with. And whatever we give out right now will register in our lives, one way or another. Whatever you and I give out comes back, one way or another. It is TAR, thoughts, actions, results, those 3 steps all the time. We got to be aware of that attention of ours. Attention, all the time attention. Remember it. 2 people, they look at a rose. One is seeing the beauty of the rose, the other one the thorn. The same 2 people are looking at a challenge. One is seeing nothing but opportunities. The other one is seeing nothing but obstacles. It is merely because of that attention of ours. Put on a 3x5 card the word attention. Because now today we know what it means. We can merely carry it along and instantly we have a picture of what we are talking about. That brings up one more thing we talked about. We talked about the word awareness. Without being aware, then we shall never be able to correct. It means a continuous self-analysis. No progress without that self-analysis. It's the ball game all in one. And let us sum the whole thing up by merely saying this, that the only security there is by continuous self-improvement. The only security there is. And without that self-improvement, we don't even like ourselves. With that self-improvement, we create a continuous new image of ourselves. You see what we are saying? How do you and I see ourselves? Because the way we see ourselves, that's the way we behave. We behave according to the image that we have of ourselves. And it all comes through the things that we have been talking about so far. Exposing ourselves to new thoughts. Be in charge of that attention of ours. Continuously have that awareness. Can we see it and can we buy it? If we can buy it, wonderful. But do not just buy the medicine and stick it in the cabinet. Use it. By using it, I guarantee, not might guarantee, but let me put it this way. Try to prove what we have talked about right now. Try to prove it wrong. And I guarantee we shall be friends for a long, long time. So what we have talked about here again today is that frustrations or success allows for no frustrations. Don't take yourself too seriously. We have recognized that we are leaders. And in so many words here today, we have accepted that the number one, if there's only one rule for leadership, it is leadership by example. You are the leaders. You have that responsibility. And I can not help but think all we really have to do is take care of number one. Make sure number one is continuously grow, because then we are staying happy and satisfied and so forth. And we have the good confidence, and thereby we become that example. And therefore it's merely this, that we are going out there and making other people's lives richer because of the richness of our own. And I wish you today a beautiful day, but heck, I wish you an even better one tomorrow. And somehow I cannot help but thinking, let us face it, that a day without laughter isn't worth living. Agreed? Right on. So therefore, maybe even more important, I wish that you may live as long as you want. But, clincher, I wish that you may laugh as long as you live. And how can we somehow take charge of life and make others' life richer through ours? Merely by the one last little rule for success. It's simplicity in itself. Merely take the days as they come and then make them into the kind of days we want them to be. Simplicity in itself. And ladies and gentlemen, that move is your move. And the choice is yours. And I hope we are going to meet again. It would brighten up my day. And I thank you very, very much. You have been utterly superb. Utterly superb. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're beautiful. Thank you. Thanks, Bob. Thank you. Thank you. Tell them about the book, I'll be down there.
I don't think we have to. I think you can see what we appreciate here.
Oh, you're beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
By the way, while you were talking, I just received a call from the Miami Beach Baptist Ministers Association. And they would like to have a discussion with you on religious aspects tonight, and they would like to meet you tomorrow at their happy hour. Can you buy it? Give a nice hand to Bjorn Secher. Thank you, Bjorn. Good night, everybody. Sleep tight.
If anybody wants this tape and so forth, I'll be down there by that table in just a second, and then just fill out the form, and they will mail it to you. I'll give you whatever tapes I have right now. Hey, God, you're beautiful. They're going one more time. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I have one more thing. And when you get down there, help yourself to to this card here, Everyday Success Pointers. There's 12 good little stuff on flat for free. I want that one right there you got. Do me a favor? Yeah. Oh, you want...